This episode is brought to you by Starry. When you drink Starry Lemon Lime Soda, every sip is a win. Perfect for game time or anytime. It's a crisp, refreshing lemon lime soda that's caffeine-free and bursting with flavor that makes you go, ah. Starry hits different. Find it in stores or online today.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive. Most of you aren't just listening right now, you're driving, cleaning, and even exercising. But what if you could be saving money by switching to Progressive? Drivers who save by switching save nearly $750 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
Hey all you heroes, hawks, heralds, crows, pirates, and wardens. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we unpack, discuss, and galaxy brain about all the lore behind the Dragon Age series.
We are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode, we'll be talking about a different topic in the Dragon Age universe, from character deep dives to exalted marches and elven gods. We will cover it all.
There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about all things Dragon Age. I am one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I'm your other host, Shelby or Shecup.
And we are here today with our monthly patron chat. And so we have our lovely patrons here. And so we'll let them go around and introduce themselves. And I'm just going to go in the order of my screen here. So that's first up is Lewis H.
Hey, everyone. Super excited to be back.
And next we have welcome to the patron chat for the first time, Bree.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here for the first time.
And then we have also known as the Crimson Knight.
Hello, I'm Steven. Happy to be here.
And then we have Capricorn Tower. Hey. The one, the only Cash or Colcashins.
Hi, I miss you all.
And then Wes.
Hello, I am Wes.
And it's like,
Hey.
All right. So let's get started. Shelby, what are we talking about? I have no idea.
You do have an idea because we did have a conversation about it like earlier today. But anyway, we are talking about who is your favorite villain in Dragon Age. I would also include antagonists in this category. So not necessarily just like evil people, anyone who is an antagonist of the game, books, comics, etc. So I compiled a list of some that we can read out. But first, Austin has a question. Yes.
Are you limiting this to like main antagonist of games or just harsh like sub antagonist, that one annoying NPC and that one random side quest that only 1% of people have done?
I would say it doesn't have to be the main antagonist of the game, but I mean, I wouldn't make it some random person. Make it somebody that most people would know of.
Okay.
I guess that eliminated your answer.
I'll be quite honest, I have no idea what my answer is. So
Okay.
There you go.
Well, I do have a list to get your brain moving. This is not an exhaustive list by any means. This is just a list that I came up with off the top of my head. So there are a lot of other great suggestions in the Discord. I'm sure y'all all will have great options and answers as well, probably a lot of whom are not on this list. So I'm just going to read the list and feel free to add to it. So first, we have Meredith, Corypheus, the Archdemon, Darkspawn, Flemeth, the Arashock, Florian, Gaspard, Samson, Calpurnia, Solus, Teventer, Anders, Red Lyrium, and Loghain. So again, feel free to add to this list. if you want to pick whomever you want. I will say before we go ahead and get started, if we get into this conversation deeply, we may get into some absolution spoilers. We want to avoid that. So if you've seen it, you know who I'm talking about. So avoid absolution spoilers if possible, but anything else we can talk about. So, yeah.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Let's do it.
Cool. So I'm just going to take the obvious one real quick. Corypheus, because he's got that opening line, right? I have seen the throne of the gods and it is empty. And, he has presence and dramatic effect. And what's not to love about that, right? I am the big bad. Bow down before me or die. Anyway, he's my favorite. That's it.
That line really went hard, but I find Corypheus, I don't know. He was so much more frightening in Dragon Age 2 than Inquisition, in my opinion.
I'll be honest, I played 2 once. I only vaguely remember the quest line entirely. So, yeah, I guess. I think it was the mechanics of the fact that he keeps coming back or something or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you should play Dragon Age 2 again, Psych.
Yeah, when I can have time again, whatever that looks like.
Does anyone even like Dragon Age 2? Seriously, who likes that game?
You can't see what I'm raising my hand.
Everyone, boo this man. Boo this man.
Boo.
I have never once on this podcast proclaimed that Dragon Age 2 is my favorite game.
Okay.
Pod.
That doesn't include on the Discord.
That's all. It's a lie no matter what. So
True.
all right. Anyone else?
I can go. So I was stuck between Loghain and actually the Grey Wardens being a villain. Loghain, the reason I think he's a great villain is obviously if you've read Stone Throne, he's a pretty complex character, but I don't feel like unless you've choose Loghain's side, you actually really get to see the other point of view of why he's such a complex character. So that's why I picked the Grey Wardens as a better villain, because they essentially have something good they're doing something good, but it's then they themselves are tearing themselves apart within, trying to do things to reverse. Like if you've read The Calling, they go to such extremes that they kind of lose sight of what's good. And the quest line and Inquisition with the Grey Wardens, we directly face them as well. And I think it kind of, I don't know, I think that they're good villains because they stand for something good, but a lot of times their political standings and they're in fighting in general can lead to them not being good being good villains, I guess.
I think that's a great answer. Really interesting. And I think you really see that also in Last Flight, where the leadership of the Grey Wardens is not doing anything really. So I agree with you for sure. I think that's a great answer.
I think we see a lot of corruption with the Warden mages too, specifically because you have Avernus who summons demons and does unethical experiments to figure out how to use the blight and weaponize it. You have Janica in DA2. I mean, she's basically possessed by Corypheus from the start, but she's just trying to unleash him because she thinks that's a good idea, I guess. And then finally you have Clarel, and I don't know, Clarel, she made some choices.
I feel like it might be accurate to say Clarel has under 5 brain cells left.
Accurate.
Yeah. Great points. Anybody else have opinions on the Grey Wardens?
They did nothing wrong.
Okay, Cash. That is demonstrably false.
I think the reaction of Sir Ruth just completely negates what you just said. The fact that Sir Ruth is adamant, like, I cannot use the greater good to justify what I did to my fellow Grey Wardens, proves that they know they did something wrong.
I do not believe what I said.
So you're basically just shitposting in real life.
Maybe. Pulling a card out of Wes's book.
Hey, that's my shtick.
Very true. Anybody else want to go next?
I'll take a swing at it. I think the greatest villain out of all the Dragon Age is the one that brought everybody in the universe together to one common cause, and it's not fighting Corypheus because he's just a ripoff of the actual big bad villain, which is the Archdemon. It's the first one. It sets the tone for the game at the very beginning, with his entire army of Darkspawn. Throughout the entire game, he sends nightmare visions to you to impose his will, basically. And that final battle on nightmare difficulty is quite literally a nightmare.
Run to the trebuchets.
So you just bring all your tanky boys, you send them in, you stand in the back with your little bow, and you go pew pew.
These are all valid points.
I do not want to admit how much 16-year-old Austin swore at the TV because he couldn't beat the Archdemon fight, only to not have realized that you had summonable units.
Listen, I don't want to talk about that either. I don't want to talk about how I gave up on the game for 7 years until my friend told me that I could do that.
7 years? Did you just say that?
I played the game when it first came out, and I only beat it in 2017.
That's 9 years, is it not?
For anyone who doesn't know, the summonable units in Dragon Age Origins in the last fight, because you go around recruiting and getting all this help, you can summon dwarfs, elves, or werewolves, depending on who you side with, Templars or mages, and there's one more. Oh, and Men of Redcliffe. And I will tell you that if you are having a tanking issue, summon the dwarfs because they will go to town on that Archdemon.
Also, I recommend never summoning the mages in any small enclosed space because they just spam fireballs the entire time, and they kill you faster than they kill the Darkspawn.
Oh, so they're a D&D wizard. Oh, cool.
But
also golems.
Oh yeah, you can get golems too if you side with Bronca.
It's blowing my mind that people didn't know about this because I can't even make it through the normal stuff in Denver without the summonable units. I just die constantly on normal mode, mind you.
I remember being so angry because as a child, I was like, what was the point of me getting all these people to help when they're not here helping me?
Yeah. Also, for example, though, I did play Mass Effect 3 before I played Dragon Age Origins. So I just assumed I was getting all these people that were just going to give me a better ending. But I also had a terrible ending because I went into the Archdemon fight with only Dog, Morrigan, Loghain, and Wynn.
That's impressive.
Half of that's because I completely just ran through Lothering and didn't do anything. So I missed Sten and Liliana.
That is your own fault. Just saying.
And then Zevran died because I never talked to him. And then Alistair left because I spared Loghain.
Yeah. My Sten tried to kill me because instead of going to the Archdemon fight, I decided to go to Haven.
Perfect. All right. So we've had the Archdemon, we've had the Grey Wardens, we've had Corypheus. Who wants to go next?
I will go next. At first, I was going to say the architect, but at the very last minute, I changed my mind. And I'm going to have to go with Dummy Mommy Meredith. I can't. I love to hate her more than anything, more than any other villain. Everything she does, it provokes like a visceral rage in me. And like, I'm almost more mad about, having to go through Orsino first because I'm just so focused on wanting to kill her. And I'm like, you are distracting from the moment, sir. This is not the time. We have to kill her. Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. Just, I'm so excited, but yeah, yes, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to spoil it, but can't stand her.
I'm definitely on the same page there as well. I really like villains that aren't like this all-powerful entity type thing. I like the human villains and the villains that think they're doing what they're doing for the greater good. So that's why I liked the Grey Warden answer as well. I think Meredith was really just thought she was doing what she had to do to protect the city, but she got it real messed up.
I agree that those are usually the best villains, but in reality, the best villain is the big scary dragon.
But the big scary dragon doesn't actually it's more of like an existential threat rather than like a force of personality. Like I think if Dragon Age Origins was made today, I think it would have been a much harder question or decision of these are supposed to be, old kind of dead gods. Shouldn't they be able to talk? Wouldn't that be, the ultimate kind of existential threat when we also already know that archdemons are also intelligent?
I will also say that my Inquisitor would use the body of the 12 dragons he's killed to beat the archdemon.
What, just swinging them around like dead cats or something?
Exactly. Exactly, Wes.
Yeah, I agree there, Cash. I think there was a lack of personality to the archdemon in the first game.
Well, you could argue that Loghain is really the primary antagonist of that game, even though the threat of the Darkspawn and Blight and Archdemon is there. He's really the one that you're going up against.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, the big bad fight at the end, I was like, oh, I'm just killing a dragon to save the world.
But it's not like haven't already killed 2 other dragons this game.
But this dragon breathes purple fire.
Yeah, huge difference.
It's much prettier.
I still like the archdemon as a dragon, as a villain though.
It also brings the apocalypse with it, but let's not talk about that.
Oh, exactly. I agree. Yeah.
So I think now would be a good time for our mid break, and then we'll come back and get everyone else who has not gone and do that. So let's head to the middle of the show.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to me talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
Hawk stepped in the poopy.
I love you.
Want a sandwich?
All this for me. And I didn't get Alexius anything. Send him a fruit basket. Everyone loves those.
All right. Well, welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about all the things that happen in this podcast that are not about the lore of this of Dragon Age. And so it is now that we thank our patrons, like all of these wonderful people who are here with us. Thank you so much for your support. Special thank you to our first patrons, Lisa M, Derek B, and Genesis. And then a special thank you to our Divine Tier patron, Kit. And then a very, very, very special thank you to the ultimate and the one and only All Bow Down, the Nug King, Lewis H. Special thank you for that and your all support. If you would like to support us on Patreon and come and join these chats, you can do so by following the link in the episode description and signing up and coming and hanging out with us and talking about ridiculous stuff like that. And then you can also come and hang out with us on Discord and hang out with us there and talk about the games and everything. You'll find all these wonderful people there to hang out and then can talk there. Another thing you can do is leave us ratings and reviews on Apple or Spotify. And I think we will read them out on a future episode of the show if you leave us 5 stars and some kind words. Shelby, do we have a Hero, Hawk, or Herald to read today? We do not. Okay, but you can also share your Hero, Hawks, and Heralds on the Discord there, and we will read them out on a future episode of the show. And I think that's all I got for the mid-break.
All right, let's get back to it.
Up there, giant icicle tits. Tittles.
You're looking for titsicles.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, and it's a real nice night for an evening.
You fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
Okay, I just have to say before we get started that the Wesmotron posted in the chat and said, the Discord where everyone bullies me for no reason. I do nothing wrong. Again, that is demonstrably false. So just needed that to be known.
All right. Well, I think I will share since in case I have to leave earlier. So my favorite villain. I do love Meredith. I love to hate Meredith. I love to hate on Orsino. I have 2. There's one that like really terrifies me, and I think is a good villain of like someone scary and that I think is evil, and his name escapes me right now, but it's the dude who kills Hawk's mother, the serial killer, and building up the face. I really do like him as a villain, even though I feel like that story sometimes is like, let's just kick Hawk while they're down. Like, let's just add another nail in the coffin. But I do like that. But I think my actual favorite villain is Alexius from the Mage, siding with the mages. I do enjoy a good sympathetic villain. I enjoy someone who kind of like, as mentioned earlier, like someone who believes that they're doing the right thing, even though it's not the right thing. I think makes a more complex villain and makes me want to know more about them. And another fact that Alexius is one of the only good parental figures in all of Dragon Age, even though he's evil and sides with Corypheus. And so I just really like him as a character and a villain and an antagonist.
Well, I think the interesting thing about Alexius too is that he doesn't side with Corypheus for like riches or power or anything like that. He sides with Corypheus because he wants to save his son who's dying, and that's something you don't really see with very many villains.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another reason I like Alexius too. I would also add, it's interesting that he like sides with Corypheus, sure, at the beginning, but then you defeat him. And for most of the game, he can be on your side.
Yeah, I think, and it just goes to show that his true motivation was for Felix, because once he realizes that that's not there and he wasn't able to save Felix, he's like, forget the Elder One, forget this Corypheus. I don't care.
I have 2 submissions from people who couldn't be here. Should I read those now? Yes. Okay. Austin, you didn't respond. Everyone else nodded. Anyway, so it's funny to me One of the submissions is from Ashley R, who is also AMRL in the Discord. And then the other one is from Lizzie or LVCC. And they both said the same person. So I just think it's hilarious. So I will read Ashley's first. And so this is what she said. My favorite villain is Logain, which is actually a recent development after reading The Stolen Throne. The main reason is that to me, he's one of the villains that seems the most human. Some of his reasons are completely valid when you think about what he went through and specifically what he saw. What happened to his mom would fill a lesser person with rage. He's just a dude who made some bad choices. Also, for all of his bad choices, the man loves his daughter, he loves his country, and he is willing to do whatever it takes for his own beliefs. And then Lizzie says this. My favorite villain is Logain because I can see the logic behind his initial decisions. And knowing what we do about his background and his motivations makes sense to me. His descent into paranoia and madness are really compelling and is part of what makes DAO so amazing. The fact that he's the first villain you think of instead of the archdemon says a lot to me about his character development. I also love the different options given to us in dealing with him throughout the series. Altogether, 10 out of 10, amazing villain. Anyone else have thoughts on Logain?
I think everyone should have like a keep Logain alive playthrough at least once. Because I definitely think, like if you really hate this person, and it's oh my god, like you're such a great character. I feel like especially one of the biggest insults is kind of like, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna keep you around. I'm not gonna let you die. You're gonna stay for a lot longer than you think you are, and that way you can also continue enjoying the character.
I agree, Cash.
At the expense of Alistair, though, yeah.
No, I agree. I think everyone should do it once, because, and the reason for that is because you can get him in Inquisition, like he can be your warden contact, and just to see what he says in the Fade, and then to leave him in the Fade, I think is a really interesting character arc, and frankly, a really good conclusion to his story. And there's a moment in, I think it's in the Fate, where the Envy Demon or whatever it's called is trying to taunt Logain, and he basically is like, you can't say anything to me that I haven't already said to myself. And that arc is so powerful.
Logain was also my favorite villain, and for a lot of the reasons that were already specified. And I mean, how many villains do we see in video games that once you defeat them can join your party afterwards? I mean, it doesn't happen very often. And something else that's kind of interesting about him is even though throughout the game he's paranoid about the Orlesians invading and everything, in Dragon Age Awakening, if he's still alive, he'll visit you and tell you that he's joining the Orlesian Grey Wardens, which the Logain that we knew from before the Lands Meet would have never even thought about doing. And keeping him alive, like you said, we could get him in Inquisition as a temporary party member. And honestly, he's my favorite of the three because, well, one, you don't have to have the choice of losing either Hawk or Alistair. And two, he's a lot more of an interesting character, in my opinion, than Stroud.
Yeah, I really agree about Logain. And I just want to add is one of the great ways of when you read The Stolen Throne, when you really get into his backstory and everything like that, Logain has been given a shit hand in his whole entire life. And I think for me, it is almost tragic for me to watch him after knowing The Stolen Throne and knowing his relationship with Rowan and everything, to watch him turn his back and let her son die. It's a moment of you've really fallen really far from being the hero of River Day.
I actually recently just finished my a playthrough of Origins where I was able to recruit Logain and set Alistair up with Honora, which felt like a triumphant experience for me because I didn't lose anybody. I was like, I don't want Alistair to die, and I don't really want him to be drunk. And then I was like, oh, he can marry Honora. Oh, but after that, I took him with me to the Return to Ostagar stuff. And he is so spicy in that DLC. When you find the correspondence between Kaelin and Empress Celine, I totally get where he's coming from. Like, Kaelin was being kind of a double timing horrible person, willing to divorce Honora essentially. And I do think if he had married Empress Celine, it would have led to Orlais taking over Ferelden effectively. Like, his altruism, you could say, would have doomed Ferelden's sort of sovereignty.
I also just did that similar playthrough, but I will say it actually changes what happens with Logain after the wardings if you martyr yourself. What happens with him after actually changes.
Do you remember what happened specifically?
Am I allowed to? It's a spoiler, so am I allowed to?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, so essentially, his body just wears down, and he actually goes in the deep roads and fights and dies. Instead of continue being in the warden, where if you stay alive, he also essentially stays alive, but he apparently just feels the calling and goes in the deep roads.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that, but it's also interesting because our survey results from the Dragon Age survey that we did recently, like 96% or something like that of people don't martyr themselves. So I'm willing to bet most people did not know that fact. So definitely thank you for sharing. I'm not one that usually martyrs myself. So okay, so who hasn't gone? Lewis, Nick, both of you two haven't gone yet?
I thought.
What?
I know Nick hasn't.
Okay, Nicholas, it's your turn. Yay.
So I feel obliged, since I brought it up in the Discord, that Sister Patrice is kind of my Meredith, where I just love to hate her. She really forces, I mean, I guess it would have been inevitable, but she really forces conflict between the Chantry and the Kunari. And I'm just like, what are you doing, girl? Like get your nose out of this business. It has nothing to do with you. But I do think that's an interesting sort of religious conflict that we haven't really seen a lot of since Dragon Age 2. Sort of Chantry versus Kuhn. You can kind of get a little of that if you do a Kunari Inquisitor, because everyone's like, oh, he's here to, or he, she, they are here to convert us to the Kuhn. They're like a secret agent, blah, 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 even though you've never known the Kuhn your entire life in that background. So I would like to see that sort of conflict come back into play later on. But I guess the other villain that I think about is the Vidasala from Trespasser. And I just think, it's kind of hilarious and badass that she just ties a book to her shoulder and uses it as a shoulder guard. Like, okay, girl, go off, I guess. But it's so interesting to me that her whole job is to learn as much as possible about things and then destroy it, which is just like so far from what everyone else does in the Dragon Age universe.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that book the Tome of Coslin or whatever?
I don't know if it's it is or not, honestly. I could see it being that, but I feel like, I suppose it depends on which world state you're operating in. But like if you gave Isabella to the Aeroshock, she canonically escapes with the tome again. So, but yeah, I just think her like perspective and her job, I guess, is just so intriguing to me. Like so much about why we try to learn more about things is to sort of advance ourselves, but her thing is like the complete opposite. But I mean, I guess that's in line with a lot of how, you know, if we view the Qun as like a colonizing force, that's kind of part of the course, right? Like you go in and you learn as much as you can about these different civilizations, but ultimately your purpose is to get rid of anything that might be cause dissent.
True. That's a really good point. To kind of bounce off of your sister Patrice or whatever her name is comment, I'll go. I guess I'm the last one, but my real answer kind of goes along with that. But first, I have a joke answer. Because I felt obligated to say this, because as we all know who my favorite character is, I feel like you can argue that Cassandra is a little bit of an antagonist in Dragon Age 2, since she's interrogating Varric. We don't really know why, all of that. So that's my joke answer. Kind of silly. And then I really went back and forth on my real answer, whether I would choose like Flemeth. I thought about Flemeth. I thought about the Architect. But I think I've really and truly landed on the Chantry, because so many of the problems in Thedas have arisen because of the Chantry. And like, I guess I'm speaking mostly as an organization, not necessarily as a religious group, but it's kind of hard to differentiate those two things. But I just feel like the Chantry, especially when you dig into the history of the Exalted Marches, which we're getting ready to do on the podcast, like, God, there are so many things. It's like, why did you do this? This was completely unnecessary. Like, what, you made this situation worse. You took something benign and made it literally horrific. Like, why did you do that? So I don't know. These days I'm feeling like the Chantry is the worst or best villain in Dragon Age. So I don't know if y'all have thoughts on that.
I definitely agree, but I would just like to say I was expecting a radically different answer. I was expecting a certain seeker, not the damn Chantry.
I did say a seeker.
Not that one.
I have to subvert expectations.
I was thoroughly surprised, and I very much enjoyed. It was so on point. What a twist.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the Chantry definitely causes a lot of conflict throughout the whole like timeline.
And to your point of like the Chantry as an organization, because I think you can separate like the beliefs of Andrastianism from the Chantry as an organization. Mainly because when you read the Exalted Marches, you realize just how far from the teaching of Andraste the Chantry has come. And I mean, it is a point, like without the Chantry, we wouldn't, would there be a plot to Dragon Age 2 or Dragon Age Inquisition?
I think that's a fair question. I think some of the things still would have happened, but
or, you know, you could also, from the argue point, like without the Chantry, there probably wouldn't be Thedas. There would be Tevinter.
That's fair too. I don't know what's worse, frankly.
Yeah. Anyone have any last thoughts?
I do want to plug for Florian. Because she really went into this being like, yeah, this guy with rocks in his face is going to let me be the Supreme Empress of all Thedas. And I'm like, what did you think was going to happen, girl? Like, sure, Jan.
Right. Also,
She
how
did
many?
not think.
Right? How many villains do we get to like judge even if they're dead? That's always memorable.
That's fair.
It's the flies that get me in that scene.
I'm unwell. I don't like that. It grosses me out.
All right. Well, we'll go around and let you all plug yourselves and where people can find you and interact. And then that will be it. So we'll start with Lewis.
You can find me on Instagram at Lewis Hackfeth. That's HACKFATH. Or in the Discord, the place to be.
All right. Bree?
You can find me on Discord at BreezyJ.
And then Steven?
I'm on Discord, Crimson Knight.
Capricorn?
Yep, I'm on Discord as Capricorn Tower.
Awesome. And Cash?
Yeah, everyone should join the Discord. Wonderful place on the internet. And I am Kolka Shins. Jeez, I had to remember my own name for a second.
And Psych.
Yep, I'm Psych88. I'm one host of the MCU Lorecast, where we break down an MCU movie and talk about its comic book lore origins, and also a player on the Mass Effect Blue Shift podcast, where I play dashing human agent Jack Parizo. It's a lot of fun.
So thank you all for being here. And again, you can join the Patreon. And if you sign up at the first Enchanter tier or higher, you can join us for these once a month episodes. We have a lot of fun. We greatly appreciate all that. Again, our special last thank you to Lewis H., the Nug King, who gets shouted out at the end of every episode of the show. And last but not least, thank you all for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We will see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at DA Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions, topics to unpack, or side character suggestions, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's easily the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. You can find us there on patreon.com/DragonAgeLorecast.
The Dragon Age Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Have you ever wanted to deep dive into the lore and stories behind all your favorite Marvel movies? Then do we have the show for you? I'm Captain Shenko.
And I'm Psych88. Join us as we dissect the media megalith that is the MCU. We'll talk about the origin stories, the fights, and everything in between.
The MCU Lorecast releases on all major podcasting platforms on Mondays as part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club and can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.